morning, everybody. Welcome to Bible class. My Bible is open to the Gospel of Mark chapter 5. I need you to open your Bibles back there, Mark 5. That's where we're going to be as we continue to explore the miracles of Jesus, what they teach us about his power and authority, and what they show us about his heart. Early on in this study, we read in Mark chapter 1 about Jesus healing a man with an unclean spirit. We didn't dwell long there. I want to swing back around and think with you about what these unclean spirits or these demons were and what they show us about Jesus' power. We even heard in Mark chapter 1, verse 24, that unclean spirit crying out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." We listened in as that unclean spirit was no match for Jesus in the Capernaum synagogue. In today's lesson, we want to follow Jesus and the apostles to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. You might remember last Sunday morning, we were with Jesus and those disciples on a stormy sea. We're following them now from that city of Capernaum across the Sea of Galilee to the land of the Gerasenes or the Gadarenes. It's not a very easy area around the Sea of Galilee to navigate. It's got steep hillsides and sharp cliffs. That is where Jesus is in Mark chapter 5, verse 2. You can pick up the reading with me. When Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. And this man is leading a miserable life. Verse 3 tells us he lived among the tombs and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him night and day among the tombs. And on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. This is a man who is terribly afflicted by not just a demon, but many demons. Verse 6 tells us that when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For Jesus was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Now, maybe as a class, you'll talk a little bit more about this whole situation, but by the time it's done, the unclean spirits end up in a herd of about 2,000 pigs. They run off the cliff into the sea, while the demon-possessed man comes to be seated, clothed, and in his right mind. Even a legion full of demons is no match for the power and authority of Jesus. I need you to turn real quick with me to the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 9. Throughout the rest of Jesus' ministry, demons, whatever, wherever they were, are no match whatsoever for Jesus. Let me just show you a few more examples before we turn it over to your in-person class teacher. In Matthew 9, verse 32, Matthew tells us, as they were going away, a demon-oppressed man who was mute. He couldn't talk. He was brought to Jesus, and when the demon had been cast out, the mute man spoke. And the crowds marveled, saying, never was anything like this seen in Israel. I want you to listen to what the Pharisees say. He casts out demons by the prince of demons. Was that true? No, that wasn't true. In fact, one of our questions as a class will get a little bit more into that. Turn over with me to Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15, where Jesus heals the daughter of a Canaanite woman. Matthew 15, we pick up the reading in verse 21. Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon. Now let's listen carefully to what Matthew tells us. First, in verse 23, Jesus did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, send her away, for she is crying out after us. Jesus answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But this Canaanite woman came and knelt before him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered, it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. She said, yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Notice especially with me verse 28. Jesus answered her, O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire. And her daughter was healed instantly. In Matthew chapter 17, verse 14, Matthew 17, we pick up the reading in verse 14. They came to the crowd, Jesus and a few of his apostles, and a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples and they could not heal him. And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. We read about these things all over the ministry of Jesus. In Luke chapter 13, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and behold, there was a woman who had a disabling spirit for 18 years. She was bent over and could not fully straighten herself. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said to her, Woman, you are freed from your disability. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight, and she glorified God. Now, I need you to listen before we're done. How many years later, listen carefully to what James wrote in James chapter 2, verses 18 and 19. We've looked together at a few examples of Jesus healing people who were oppressed by demons and unclean spirits. We've got a lot to talk about. Listen to what James tells us in James 2:18 and 19, as he writes to Christians. Someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Here's James' challenge. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. Listen, you believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. We don't talk a lot about demons, but we've heard all about them in Matthew and Mark's gospel. What does Jesus' showdown with these demons show us about his power and authority? Maybe most importantly of all, what does it show us about his heart? I'm going to kick it over to your in-person class teacher, but I appreciate you being in class. Let's explore together. Have a great start to this new week. I'll see you real soon.